Oh, baby, it's the Writers Roundtable. We're back. We're back, baby. Here we are. Matt, tell them what's going to happen on tonight's show. What do we have planned?
I don't know what to do with my hands. Talladega Nights, anybody? All right. Cricket noise in the...
It was a little weird. That was a little weird thing to say. I wasn't sure what direction you were going there, and then you brought it back with the quote, the movie quote. So I think you saved it.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get in the quote a little earlier. Anyway, aside from my jokes that go over everyone's heads, we have Jonathan Lange back in the house tonight, along with Aditya Fuldeore, and we are going to debate Dynasty Startup dilemmas. We're going to talk Zach Charbonnet versus Kenneth Walker. We're going to talk Jahmyr Gibbs and if his value is fugazi or if it's the real deal. And we're going to talk about startup decisions and who we should be buying and selling in Dynasty. It's going to be a jam-packed episode.
I can't wait to talk about how good David Montgomery is once again. So here we go. Let's start the show. If I can... All right, there we go. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on the roundtable this evening. Jonathan and Aditya, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right. Well, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but there's a lot of Dynasty startups going on right now. And there's this thing that happened in the NFL draft. So I'm just going to kick it off with you, Jonathan. We're just going to start the show. Zach Charbonnet was drafted again. The Seattle Seahawks do it again. They draft a running back, another running back, and now Charbonnet's value is taking a nosedive. And Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is falling in some of those early redraft leagues, but we're in Dynasty. He's fallen in Dynasty too. So help us navigate this situation. Who do you prefer, and what do we do?
Well, before I give us any kind of solutions, I just want to roll the tape. Last time I was here, I said, "What if Zach Charbonnet goes to Seattle?" And I just pat myself back. Okay, all right, there we go. So I still like Charbonnet. I even drafted him. In I think it was 204, 2-4. It's like I like them both. If I had to choose one, give me the cheaper one. We're looking at a situation where Charbonnet, he might be. It seems like he's the pass catcher, and that's more value in PPR leagues. It's hard to. It's like you even said on the show sheet. It's a very murky situation. We have no idea what's going to happen. We really don't know. If I had to lean one way, it'd be Charbonnet. And the reason why I'd say that is just like Kenneth Walker last year. Last year, Kenneth Walker was drafted. We saw an injury, and we saw Kenneth Walker take over the backfield, become the Dynasty darling, become what he was. Was he RB1 at one point? I think his highest was RB3. He was up there.
He was up there.
He was way up there. And what if that happens to Charbonnet? So, and he did so good, it's hard to believe that they'd want to take a running back in the second round. So I would go Charbonnet, but I'm not going to die on that hill. If someone wanted Walker, cool, take him, But that Seattle offense, you're getting a number 2 running back, Charbonnet. If you get Charbonnet, you're getting a number 2 running back in a top 15 NFL offense, 3 talented pass catchers, a top 12 quarterback, and they had 2 offensive tackles that were in their rookie year last year going into their second year. So it's a great buy for me to go with Charbonnet.
Yeah, it said it right there. Like you said, Jonathan, whichever one is a cheaper one is probably the one that I'm more likely to take. And if you're in Dynasty Startups and you see Kenneth Walker go off the board first, then you might be circling Charbonnet on your draft board right there. Last season, Walker played in 15 games. he had a 65.3% opportunity share, which was number 13 among running backs. And he was actually third in total red zone touches, which was interesting to see that he was used quite often in that Seahawks offense. And Charbonnet coming in, it feels a little bit like, yeah, maybe he'll be the pass catcher. He is a little bit bigger or taller than Kenneth Walker. So it seems like it's going to be a 1A, 1B type of backfield situation. It's hard for me to say that they'll be moving on from Kenneth Walker or from Charbonnet after like week one. Say one back gets 10 touches, the other one gets 5. So the back that gets more touches is the dominant back. I don't think that happens at all. I think it'll be a week-to-week thing where Pete Carroll goes with whoever fits their game plan for that week better, and maybe managing injuries here and there. Obviously, one gets hurt, the other one, their values off the roof. It's through the roof. So it's really interesting to see how the Seattle Seahawks are going to manage that situation, especially with an offense that just added Jackson Smith and Jigba too. So with the whole thing that running backs are more offensive weapons now, or whatever that means, I don't think we see like Charbonnet getting snaps from the slot like people are talking Bijan or Jahmyr Gibbs might get. But it's definitely a situation where I think Kenneth Walker gets more value out of the gate this season, but Charbonnet is the guy that long-term Seattle might go with, especially considering how Pete Carroll's been rotating those backs throughout his time in Seattle.
Yep, I think you two nailed it on the head right there. Walker is the proven asset, but if Zach Charbonnet is the one carving out the pass catching role, then given his cost right now of cost of acquisition is far lower. If you're placing your bets on one of them, you're placing him on Zach Charbonnet just purely because of value and what we've seen happen in the NFL with shared backfields. If Charbonnet has even half of the red zone work, a third of the red zone work alongside of the pass catching role, he's potentially outscoring Kenneth Walker in fantasy points per game. With, we look at Kenneth Walker, there's one thing he wasn't necessarily good at. It was putting together quality runs. He had a high breakaway run rate, but 4.1, 38 true yards per carry, number 38 out of running backs. That's not gleaming, it's not great. So kind of to what Jonathan mentioned, if there's a situation where you have a genie out of the bottle moment with Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker's still, kind of plodding along in between the tackles, then it might be lights out for Kenneth Walker. So the question I want to pose is, if you're a Kenneth Walker owner right now, are we trying to avoid that reality affecting us by just getting rid of him now, or are we trusting in the talent and the fact that he's still a top 10 RB in value?
You're buying him. Trust the talent. I go ahead,
Go
guys.
ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, Aditya. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I gotta agree with that. It seems like Walker's value has taken a big hit since Charbonnet was drafted, and if you're trying to sell him, you're probably not getting what you would have gotten for him before the draft, or anything close to what you ideally want from a guy who was valued as a top 10 dynasty running back not too long ago. So at this point, if you're a Kenneth Walker owner, you're probably holding on to him unless you get a through-the-roof offer, which probably won't happen.
But what happens to Kenneth Walker's value when that 65% opportunity share falls towards 55%? Dare I even say 50? Well, he's not top 10 value anymore. He is top 18, top 15.
But what's historically, what has Pete Carroll tended to do with his running backs? Do we know? Because I remember we were all excited about this guy. Remember back in 2018? Remember 2018? I know it was a long time ago. Remember Rashad Penny was going to be the guy? And then guess what? Chris Carson came in and just took over that backfield.
Yeah.
Because this is in the last 5 years, Pete Carroll, and you could argue it would have been more years because there were injuries that took place. There were over 200 carries in 2018 for Chris Carson, again in 2019 for Chris Carson. Huge usage for Chris Carson, right? And I look at Ken Walker, and I'm looking at 98th percentile speed, 96th percentile speed, 98th percentile 40. And I'm looking at Charbonnet's profile, and I'm going, oh, okay, it's fine. It's good. He's a better pass catcher. There's no doubt. That's my one trepidation about the whole thing. But Walker proved that he could do it last year. And then you look at Seattle's, like, their vacated rushers and targets. And, Travis Homer's not on the team anymore. And Rashad Penny's not on the team anymore. That's like 70 carries. You're squinting at me, but that's like 70 carries. What's our expectation for Charbonnet? I'm thinking
more than 70 carries.
What about 100?
Yeah.
I'm a hater in more than 70 carries.
Is 100? Is 100 not? Because if you look historically at their backfield usage, I mean, Walker's the better player, man.
Yeah.
So the one point I will give you, okay, is that Seattle, and this is freaking crazy. This is a crazy thing I saw, and I double checked it and I triple checked it. They threw the ball more last year than they ever did with Russell Wilson. 573 pass attempts. There was 1 year where Russell Wilson had 568. And now you throw JSN into that. So you could say, okay, they draft Charbonnet because they want to be more of a passing offense, more of a, what's the word for it? A now offense, right? And they'll be sick, right? I mean, we can all agree that their pass catchers are just out of this unbelievable. So if you want to use Charbonnet more in the passing game, but I think Kenneth Walker proved that he was okay at that too. So I don't know, man. I'm buying the dip on Kenneth Walker. I've never really been a huge Charbonnet guy. That's my take on it. But I think this is kind of crazy, if I'm being honest.
I've never been a Charbonnet guy either, and I've been documented on that several times. Yeah. I was tweeting a lot when he got drafted to Seattle. What I want, my takeaway from this,
Seattle does this.
Don't be surprised when I'm wrong about Zach Charbonnet, and he's better than, because I'm just a guy, and Zach Charbonnet is going to carve out a role, and then all of a sudden, Kenneth Walker, RB1 to RB6 to RB18. If you're a Kenneth Walker owner, you just got to tread very carefully. And as soon as you see trouble coming around the corner, you got to have a plan to get out, because his value can tank quickly because of the draft capital invested in Zachary Charbonnet. Speaking.
No, hold on.
Oh, I can't transition.
You besmirched the name of Ken Walker's efficiency. You besmirched his efficiency. So let me tell you about efficiency, Matt Babich. All right. Number 12 in juke rate. Number 10 in evaded tackles. You brought up the breakaway run rate. Very good.
Thank
Number
you.
8. Number 3 in breakaway runs. Number 12 in yards created. Number 19 in yards per touch. You may proceed.
I was looking at his yards per out run. That's why I was waiting to.
Oh, okay.
You know what though?
So, and he was looking at the
yards
run block
created per touch. The yards created per touch is a good argument because his yards per reception was 6.1 yards per reception on 35 targets. How many receptions? 27 receptions. That's a pretty. That's heavily influencing the. I'm not buying it. Look, he's a good tackle breaker. Cool. He's not a run. Is he a good running back? Yeah, probably. I feel like I've gotten put into this corner where all of a sudden I'm like the biggest Kenneth Walker hater, and I don't know how that happened.
I did it.
He broke it.
You pinned this straw man argument against me that I wasn't even trying to make.
Yeah, we did the same thing with Jerry Jeudy on Jerry. We did the same thing to Matty Kiwoom with Jerry Jeudy. You remember? That was good. That was a good time.
I remember.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna transition to the next question now, like I tried to earlier. So,
all right, you can go ahead. You go ahead and do that.
Speaking of running backs with high evaluations and high draft capital, we had Jahmyr Gibbs go in the top 20 picks, most specifically the top 16. Top 12. Did I just say that wrong? He was picked 12.
Yeah.
He's
It's okay.
number. He's RB5.
Baker's
the train
he was
is
a
off
Baker's.
the
it's
train is
Baker's
off the
dozen.
damn rails. The train is off the damn rails. He's RB5 on Keep Trade Cut and the Player Profiler Dynasty rankings. Aditya, is this Fugazi, or are we getting swifted again, or is this real? Is Jahmyr Gibbs a top 5 running back in Dynasty? And where should we have our expectations set for 2023?
I'm going to say this is real. He is a top 5 back for Dynasty. I think he's right at that number 5 position because you look at those top 5 Dynasty running backs. You have Bijan, Breece Hall, Saquon, and fourth one I'm forgetting, but it's Jahmyr Gibbs is staunchly penciled in at that number 5 spot because those other guys that could be rotated into that number 5 dynasty spot, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby was selected in the 3rd round, and Etienne is not a workhorse, it's looking like. You also have Austin Eckler. He's getting older. Contract issues with the Chargers. We'll see about that. Kenneth Walker, obviously, we just discussed, as Zach Charbonnet and Christian McCaffrey. You can make an argument for him to be back in that top 5. I think it was Jonathan Taylor I was missing in that top 4 earlier, but Christian McCaffrey can definitely be in that top 5. But Jahmyr Gibbs, they picked him 12th overall for a reason, because he's a guy that the Lions and Dan Campbell want to use like they wanted to use DeAndre Swift, but due to issues with injuries, health, and various things that DeAndre Swift was just not good at in the eyes of the coaching staff, Jahmyr Gibbs is now in, DeAndre Swift is out, and you do have David Montgomery there, but I don't see David Montgomery taking on that Jamal Williams role from last year. It'll be more of a Jamal Williams light role, maybe less pass catching, some of that red zone work, but he's not getting more than 200 carries like Williams got last year. So Jahmyr Gibbs, I definitely see him being that pass catcher out of the backfield. And for simply 2023, I think we'll see him get eased into that offense a little bit to start out with. So don't panic if week 1 he's not that heavy opportunity share kind of guy. But slowly we'll see him being brought on. Like they wanted to bring in DeAndre Swift, but we only signed small sample sizes with him. Jahmyr Gibbs is that new guy in Dynasty and what's become a pretty exciting offense in Detroit.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jonathan? What is Jahmyr Gibbs a top 5 running back in Dynasty? What's the deal?
Yeah. So I opened up this show sheet and I saw the question and I was like, "There's no way. I was so sure there's no way he's the top 5." And then I started reading and it's like, okay, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Saquon's getting up there. It's like I was like, well, maybe he is. Like
Yeah.
I need to just come forward with everybody. He is, yes, he's probably firmly at that 5 spot. He is gonna share time with Montgomery, and I'll talk about Montgomery a little later. I wanted to say something about him, but every running back shares time now. Literally, there's what Jonathan Taylor, but he got broken last year. Breece Hall, he had an ACL sprain or ACL tear. The days of the bell cow, I think, are over. I think we're going into a new phase of running back, where there's not going to be this guy that gets 30 touches a game for the whole season unless the number 2 and number 3 get injured. It's just not going to happen. And they're going to the Detroit offense, it is ascending, and they will scheme this guy. They'll put it. They're not going to be like, "Hey, we want you to run up the middle 15 times a game." No, they're going to have him in space, screen passes. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, he's already mentioned some things he wants to do. It's going to be it's going to be great for him. I don't see how you can put him lower than 6th.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Seth.
I suppose that's fair, but man, it's so risky. I mean, we're talking Dynasty Startup right now.
Yeah.
And the way I think about Dynasty Startups is, at player profile, we think of 3-year windows. And I typically, I used to be the guy, and we'll talk more about Dynasty Startup strategy. Looking back on some of my first teams are hilarious because I'm like the trade down. I still like to trade down, but just trading down for the sake of trading down and not really having a plan, but now much more calculated and geared towards winning in year one. So if just with that approach in mind, from a Dynasty Startup perspective, and even in rookie drafts, I like JSN so much, and I'm taking JSN over him, so I'm not getting any Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's probably people will call me crazy, but I think the same arguments we're making that, Jackson Smith and Jigba's target share is not going to be there. I think David Montgomery's a really good player, and he's going to take up a lot of the red zone touches. So I think the same argument can be made for Jack. I just think Jackson Smith and Jigba is that guy in that offense, and Tyler Lockett likely going to be leaving here in a year or two. So that in Dynasty, I think you want JSN. Ed brings it up. Yes, he's 199 pounds. So, but again, we're stuck in this place where I can't ignore the draft capital. I can't ignore the fact that he's 21 years old. I can't ignore the fact that he's in a good offense. So while my instincts tell me no, yeah, he's probably like 5 or 6. I would probably put Kenneth Walker in that same conversation because of how I feel about Zach Charbonnet. But that's just me. So if you're in a startup, though, and you see him coming off the board in like the 3rd round, I can't do that, man. In a rookie draft, maybe, but in a Dynasty startup where I am risk averse, especially in the earlier rounds, I am headed in a different direction. But Matt Babich, or you already answered this question, didn't you? So I'm the last, or did you answer it?
I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Aditya and Jonathan essentially answered it for me. But the thing with Gibbs is, Seth, you brought up a really good point where there is a difference between startup drafts and rookie drafts, how you're going to plan that out. Because in rookie drafts, you already have your build, right? So if you're in a spot where you're looking to take Gibbs, then you're obviously, if you're in a win now window, a 3-year window, he's automatic. He's an RB. He's a top 5 RB. But if you're in a Dynasty startup, and that's something we'll get into, here in the next question, but how risk averse do you want to be? I'm someone who, if I'm trying to win now, right off the gate, every draft I do. So Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be someone I'm going to be targeting, because you give me 3 years to put together, a team. I think he's got probably closer to a 4-year window. If you think about, with a 1st-round draft capital, it's going to be an expensive 5th-round extension. So they're probably going to keep him around for a 4th year and then get as much usage out of him as they can. So I think he's got a 4-year window there in Detroit with his draft capital. And look, I don't make the rules. Unfortunately, I would love to, but I don't decide who gets drafted when and where. I don't decide that Gibbs gets top 12 draft capital to Detroit. I don't get to decide it. It's an outlier in draft capital, and yeah, he's a little light, but we got to trust that. We got to trust how much investment the Detroit Lions have in Jahmyr Gibbs. We're talking about like a David Montgomery assuming a Jamal Williams role. He had 3 goal line carries last year, so that doesn't necessarily move me. I don't know if Seth knew that because he just looked bewildered in the camera. Yeah, go look.
Because we had Justin Fields. That's why. Come on. What are you talking about?
Sounds like he can't command an offense in the goal line. That's what I hear.
Yeah, Jared Goff's gonna be running a lot of quarterback keepers on the goal line.
The point. Look, Montgomery isn't going to be there past 2025. They got a team out in 2024. If they really want to, they can get out after this season without losing any money. They can save a little bit of money, but it doesn't necessarily make any sense. Neither did the contract in the first place. This is Gibbs' backfield, and top 5 is the value he deserves. And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold Dan Campbell said so.
So, okay. So how bad is this? Let's just talk about. Can we talk about the Lions for a second? Can we just?
Would love
so you
to.
sign. All right.
Yeah.
So you signed David Montgomery, 3 years, $18 million, right? And then so you got Swift and Montgomery on your team, and you hate Swift so much that you spend a 1st-round pick on his replacement, and then ship him out the door for essentially like what, a 4th-round pick or a late-round pick swap or something. it's so asinine. And so, like, Dario said it during the draft extravaganza live stream. If I picked a running back in the top 12, I probably couldn't sleep at night. But I think Dan Campbell's probably sleeping like a baby. Just team building wise, if you were a Lions fan, you had to be so excited going into this draft. Like, yes, we're going to probably get the finishing touches on what could potentially be a playoff, dare I say, a Super Bowl roster. I know you have Jared Goff there, but you potentially are that talented in the NFC. I mean, who knows? And then this happens. I mean, I don't know, man. It's just it'd be kind of a bummer for me.
Just to interject here real quick, I think the Lions have dreams of Gibbs and David Montgomery being the new Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. I think that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Can I add just one more thing? Sorry.
Go for it.
I was doing some digging on the data analysis tool here on Player Profiler, and there is another running back in the database with 199 pounds by the name of Austin Eckler.
Oh.
Ever heard of him?
Yeah, but does he lift weights like Austin?
Oh
Eckler
yeah,
does?
he's got gains, bro. He's
He'll
got
learn.
gains.
Okay, well, maybe Austin Eckler will be on the team because apparently he's looking for a trade too. All right, so apparently I proved it's Charbonnet. Okay, good. Fantasy Plumber, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you being in the chat. All right, so 12-team Superflex, half PPR, start 10. Inbox, so give the 211 and a 24 second for Calvin Ridley. Are we doing that?
I mean, if it's going to be anywhere near the back half of the second, then yeah, I'll. If you're a contending team, because if you're trading for Calvin Ridley, you have to be a contending team, and if you're a contending team, 2 late seconds don't mean anything to you. So just take them.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I will say, I agree. I'll do the trade if I'm a contending team, but it's crazy to think that at the 211 and 212, I'm routinely seeing Jaden Reed and Marvin Mims pop up there in a super flex, which is tempting, but I think you take the proven commodity in Calvin Ridley. Lincoln, thanks for stopping by, and thank you for the question. Hey, guys, who are you taking with the 105? 12-team, super flex, start 10, one tight end premium. I wonder if that means like an extra point for the tight end premium. I don't know, but we'll just assume regular tight end premium. He's 2 quarterbacks, Fields, Hurts. I have no third QB, and my 2 best RBs are Miles Sanders, Derrick Henry, and Gibson, and B-Rob. So who are we taking at the 105? I'm assuming Bijan's going to be gone, and you're probably assuming like Bryce Young. I mean, so outside of that, Gibbs. I mean, Gibbs is probably the 103
gone
in most drafts.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at C.J. Stroud or the other quarterback.
Well, he didn't. He
Anthony
didn't tell us about his receiver.
Richardson's gone.
Richardson will be gone. So you're looking at Stroud there. Would you take Stroud? Would you take Stroud or because there's not going to be a running back you would take there, right?
Yeah, I'd say Stroud or JSN.
Yeah.
What's his receivers like?
Yeah.
Well,
because that's where you're going to be looking at. You're not going to be looking at taking a running back. You're going to be looking at taking a receiver.
So his best 2 receivers are AJ
Calvin Ridley. I'd take JSN.
I guess so.
I'm taking JSN.
Yep. That's the answer.
So
take CJ, take Gibbs. Oh, Gibbs is probably not going to be there. Option 3, take Hill. Tyreek Hill?
Whoa.
Is that Tyreek Hill? If you're confident about winning now, then
I mean he's got Fields and Hurts in his super flex league.
Yeah.
He's AJ Brown too. He's winning now.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd rank that option 3, option 2, option 1. If you have all those options on the board.
Essentially, and I'll slot JSN after option 3.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right, we got time for one more. Tanner, thanks for tuning in. He's in the middle of his rookie draft, 12-team, 1 QB, and he took JSN at the 103, and I'm now being offered Javonte Williams and the 111. Thoughts? Ooh, that's a good question. What do you guys think? That's pretty fair. Just instinctively, I think that's pretty fair.
That's
Yeah,
a
I think
good
it kind of depends on your team. I like JSN a lot. I have concerns about Javonte Williams' long-term outlook. He's coming off the ACL, and he's probably not going to play for the at least first few weeks. I would say probably first third of the season is probably up in the air, but he'll probably be back by week 5 or 6 for sure. Depends on how you feel about Kendre Miller and Charbonnet. I honestly thinking about this and thinking about just kind of depends on your receiver room too.
But
fair.
if he's
That's
at the
fair.
103, if this is his pick at the 103, and he's taking JSN, is he going to be in a spot to win while Williams and Charbonnet or Miller are in a window?
Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Because I think by the time that 3 years closes in, I think Williams is probably past his value peak, and who knows if Charbonnet and Miller will even find one.
Yeah, you saying that has me leaning the JSN. Just keep JSN. But I would try to maybe get I would say if you're a
future
rebuilding
pick,
team,
maybe.
yeah, that's where I'm going. Like instead of Javonte, if you could get a 24 first, then
I'd listen to that.
That'd be more, yeah.
So hopefully that helps, Tanner. Appreciate you, man. Let's see. He's got another comment here. Is this like the same team? So maybe, I'm confused. But if you have Mahomes, CMC, Swift, Kamara, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, if you have all that, then maybe I make the trade.
I'm flipping. I mean, now that I see the team, I'm making the trade.
Yeah, that's a pretty good team.
That is, top 3.
Yeah, so maybe he traded for a pick or something, and that's how he got the 103. All right. I think that's it. We are going to take a quick commercial break. We have comments coming in like crazy, so I appreciate you guys in the chat. You're killing it. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Quick message from the Podfather, but stick around because we have more Dynasty Startup strategy discussion coming up right after this.
You know, people always ask me, hey, what is the World Series of fantasy or the Super Bowl of fantasy football? And it's easy. It's the FFPC, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. It's a $6 million prize pool. And they've had their Never Too Early Best Ball leagues cranking since February. And so the FFPC is the answer to so many questions. Hey, where's the best place to get a Dynasty Orphan? Well, you can adopt a Dynasty Orphan at the FFPC. That's why we partner with them. If you want to play fantasy football for low, medium, high stakes, seasonal, best ball, dynasty, go to the FFPC. And don't forget, promo code Underworld to get you $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team, no matter what team it is, no matter what format it is, at the FFPC. Go do it.
All right. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We are back. And it is time for probably one of my favorite topics ever. I've been known to talk for hours and neglect my family to talk about Dynasty Startup strategy, baby. So, Jonathan, we're gonna leave this really open-ended. What is your favorite strategy? Like, what's your approach to a Dynasty Startup? Because we have a lot of people hopping in these now, and we're interested to get your take on what you do. And are you trading down? Are you trading up? Like, what's your approach?
So I have a lot of conviction from this. So I actually just started playing Dynasty last year. Okay. And I remember the startup and the guys I got. I went like running back heavy. I will never, ever, 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 ever do that again. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Yeah, it just didn't go great. So I speak from the heart. I speak with conviction when I say this. I would try to trade up and get 2 top 12 quarterbacks in a super flex startup. If that means I give up my third, I'll trade out my second, my third, and my fourth. I'll do it. I don't care. Because if you can roll in a league with, I don't know, let's say Fields and Hurts, like we just, or, you know, Mahomes, you can't do Mahomes and Allen, but if you could do Mahomes and Hurts, Mahomes and Fields.
I've seen some people do it. It's not
Okay.
impossible.
Yeah.
If you get the 102 and then you trade for the 101 somehow, like I've seen people do it.
I mean, like, yeah, you'll take a hit on depth, but injuries happen. Injuries happen, and that's the way to go. Like, because you're gonna have people that are valuing these players up, but you know, we've seen it with Kenneth Walker. People draft Kenneth Walker and he's going early in dynasty drafts, and now look at that investment. But your quarterbacks, you know, they're insulated. You know, teams got them. So I look at doing that, and I'd like to go wide receiver heavy. I probably wouldn't get my first running back until maybe round 6, maybe 7. And I'd try to wait on tight end until maybe 9 or 10. Just honestly, maybe even after that, just go heavy receiver and have 2 top 12 quarterbacks and let the receivers do the work, and I think you'll be golden.
Yeah, for sure. That positional value with running backs being so volatile is definitely something to keep in mind. Going away from just looking at positions, but I think looking at how you want to build your overall draft, you want to build for potential early, grab production in the middle of your drafts, and then swing for the fences late in your drafts. I think because once you get to those later rounds in those drafts, you don't want to get a guy that you know is like a Nyheim Hines who's just going to give you a couple catches a game or something like that on your bench, who you know you're never going to use. You want to get a guy that you want to swing for the fences with. Like I believe Sky Moore last year was one of those guys that was you want to swing for the fences. Obviously, it didn't work out for his first year there, but long term, looking at Dynasty, it could work out. So those are the guys that you want to take in those late rounds. You want to shoot for upside and potential in the late rounds. And in those middle rounds, don't be afraid to grab a guy that has proven production, those veterans that are I know a lot of times in Dynasty, people are scared to pick up those guys that are late 20s, early 30s. But those are the guys that, especially a wide receiver, like a couple of years ago, Tyler Boyd, he was extremely productive, but T. Higgins came in, Ja'Marr Chase came in, and people were like, no Tyler Boyd at all. But a couple of years ago, he was actually really productive for the Bengals and a good guy to take in those middle rounds for production that you're going to need for that season, because you're not just playing for 3 years out. There's also a dynasty season, that season of the startup. So you're playing for production then. And in those early rounds, of course, look at potential and all those guys like that we talked about, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, all these guys, high draft capital, high potential. They're going high in the actual NFL draft for a reason. So why not explore them high in these dynasty startups and where they're going?
People are ageist, you know. I haven't been a part of very many startup drafts, but each one I've been a part of, I've seen a group of veterans start to slide. And it's always the receivers that are hitting like 27, like right at that age apex, where you know that you can have a 3 to 4 year window, or they could be done that season. And you see guys like in one of my startup drafts, maybe 3 years ago, it was DeAndre Hopkins that slid in value, and he had already paid that off tenfold in his first season when coming back. So Aditya brings up a good point of not being too scared off of veterans, especially when you're trying to aim for that steady production in the middle rounds. And if I'm going to do a startup, I'm looking to grab a hero RB the same way I'm looking to do in seasonal leagues. If you can get your hands on one of these running backs that potentially has that 6 to 8 year window, that second contract window that's so rarely achieved by running backs in this era, then you should probably take that shot, because there's only 5 running backs in the top 30 in Superflex, Player Profiler, Superflex Dynasty rankings, which feels about right. But that also means that you have you don't have to get your RB in the first or second round. You can potentially get your hero RB in the 4th round instead of the first 2. So it's very different when you play super flex, but no matter what the format is, I think still grabbing that hero RB is a very important aspect, that anchor that you can consistently rely on for 3 to 4 years as you build that core and try and run for a, to complete a dynasty, as they say.
Yeah, I am going to echo a lot of that. I love what Jonathan was talking about, going and getting those elite quarterbacks no matter what you got to do. Don't love giving up rookie picks, but I'll do it. I'll give up future rookie picks if I can go and get like a Patrick Mahomes or a Justin Herbert, getting in that top 5 in the startup and a super flex draft. Sign me up. I'll pay just about. I mean, obviously you don't want to pay too much, but I'd pay a lot to go up and get somebody like that. Love the hero RB. I tend to be more of a wide receiver early, try to figure out my running backs later kind of guy, but I do want to get at least one that I'm comfortable with. Like perfect example this year, and we'll talk more about him, is like if I can get Breece Hall in the 3rd round in a super flex startup, boom, perfect.
Every time.
Yeah.
Saquon, same way. I used to be a guy, and I talked about this a little earlier. I've been playing Dynasty for like 7 years now. I have like over 20 teams, and I'm just a sicko, which is why I work at playerprofiler.com. I used to be a guy who just was aimless, didn't have a strategy, and would trade for the sake of trading, like trade for rookie picks. And rookie picks are great, don't get me wrong. They're the most flexible asset to get, but everything has to have a purpose. Like, what's your intention when you're going about a certain strategy? Like, you have to trade with intentionality. And typically, like I think Scott Fish said, on average, dynasty leagues last like 2.5 years, which kind of blew my mind and kind of changed my whole perspective on dynasty. So I am a win now approach kind of guy now. Tailored to that 3-year window, right? Because if most leagues last 2.5 years, then that's about 3 years. So playing with that sort of intentionality is important. So 2.5 years, go ahead and clip it. 2.5 years. Matt's laughing at me. 2.5 years. That's about
3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, chat. Go ahead. So it's just like that. I mean, I was going to bring up a team. I don't know. Matt was making fun of me earlier in the show about it. I like if I can find this team here that because I'm in a dynasty startup right now. And there it is, and it blocks out the sun. So if there was a better way to show it, then I would. But that's kind of what I like to. I mean, I like to get quarterback early. I was trying like mad to trade up. I got stuck with the 112, so I got Dak Prescott there. But anyway, Matt, is there something you want to say about this team?
Yeah, dude, no one cares about your fantasy team.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. So, in conclusion, keep that 3-year window in mind and trade with intentionality and subscribe to the Player Profiler Dynasty rankings, for crying out loud. Dynasty Deluxe package, or you could get the all-in package. Promo code Seth, S-E-T-H. If you don't know how to spell Seth, if you're like an old grandpa who can't spell or say Seth, they say it with like a Z. Have you ever heard an old man try to say Seth? Probably not, because you're not named Seth. But it's always with a Z instead of a S. Zeth. It comes out as Zeth. So, anyway, promo code Seth. Save yourself $10 on the all-in package at playerprofiler.com. And that might be the worst promo I've ever given. So, Matt, do we have another question here?
We do. My question is, do I need to start spelling your name with a Z? Is there a silent Z in front of Zeth?
Well, if you're over the age of 70, yes. So, like, we had an old geometry teacher, that would Zeth, like every time I got in trouble, like that's how he talked. Zeth, like, anyway, use a straight edge. So like in geometry class, it was like, I was drawing the ocean. But yeah, what's our last question here?
I appreciate you for explaining that.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for.
We'll start with Aditya. who are we trading for in Dynasty right now, and who are we trading away? It's buy or sell season.
The guy that I'm buying, and this is a guy I've been trying to buy for the last couple of years, but he's been getting injured, and there's a lot of volatility there. But Rashad Bateman, and I know there's people that are like, they added Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews is still there, but you look at the Ravens roster. Odell isn't a wide receiver one anymore. He's not the guy that gives you 1,000 yards. It's been a few years since he's gotten 1,000 yards. He's been through injury. He's not going to be the guy that plays every game and gets 1,000 yards. Rashad Bateman, he's been through injury throughout the first couple seasons of his career as well. But when he is in the game, he gets used pretty often. Last season, the first few games of the year, he played the 6 games. One of those games against Tampa Bay, he was injured. He got 1 target. He barely played, so I don't even count that. But all other games, he got at least 4 targets. That Miami game where he took a route across the middle and right to the house, he's getting usage when he's in the game. The problem is staying in the game. So I think this is like year 2 or 3 of me saying Rashad Bateman, gotta hammer Rashad Bateman. But looking at how much he's fallen with Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham being added, I think people are overvaluing how much Odell Beckham and Zay Flowers are going to impact him. Especially Zay Flowers isn't going to be the 1,000-yard receiver either right out of the gate immediately. He's going to be the guy that gets 500, 600 yards for Baltimore, because Marquise Brown, first-round pick, he got 550-ish yards his rookie season. Rashad Bateman, same thing, and both of those guys had injuries here and there in their rookie years, but the Ravens don't really feed their rookie wide receivers like their wide receivers one immediately out of the gate. But Rashad Bateman, he's fallen a bit further than I expected him to, so I'm buying him. As for selling, Drake London. Drake London, I know he's the wide receiver one in Atlanta, but that's a big slice of a really small pie. They added Bijan and Tyler Algier is still there. They really want to run the ball. So I'm not buying Drake London. He's a guy that he's high up there in dynasty value. So if you can get a veteran and you're trying to compete immediately, like a Tyreek Hill, even a DJ Moore for Drake London, then that's a guy that I'm looking to sell there.
What do you think, Jonathan? Who you buying? Who you selling in Dynasty?
Yeah, so this Seth, my brother had a friend named Seth, and my dad called him Zest.
Zest. That's a new one.
Yeah.
I've never heard Zest before.
So yeah,
I've heard Seath. I've heard. Don't even get me started on my last name.
So yeah, this will warm your heart though. I would trade for maybe warm your heart. I would trade for David Montgomery.
Yeah, it does warm my heart.
Right now, the Jahmyr Gibbs hype, we just talked about it, like he's top 5. And I don't think he's going to score, 15, 18 touchdowns. I'm not expecting him to have an RB1 season, but he's going to be useful for a team if you have good receivers, and you just need that running back. If you could trade, a 24-second and maybe a small piece for him, I would do it. I just flat out would, because when he was on the Bears for 4 years, their offense strength 28th, 24th, 26th, and 29th. The Lions last year were ranked in the top 5 in total offense. He's going to be in his best situation ever, clearly. Like, there's no other way to put it. So I'm buying Montgomery. I think he'll be a good RB2 for fantasy teams. A player that I'm selling is DeAndre Swift. He's going to be in a committee. He's proven in Detroit that he can't be the guy. And maybe it'll work. Maybe he'll thrive, and I could be looking this will not age gracefully. But I mean, you're looking at Jalen Hurts scored more rushing touchdowns than any other running back on the team last year. It's going to be a committee, and technically Hurts is the leading rushing touchdown getter. So I think if you can get a bump that he joined the Eagles, and if you can trade him away for a quality piece, I would definitely move off of it.
Seth, before you get into David Montgomery, let me ask the group a rapid fire. I'm looking on Keep Trade Cut here. All right. Dynasty, David Montgomery or Brian Robinson?
Oh, David Montgomery.
David Montgomery or AJ Dillon? No. Say Brian Robinson. Do it. Agree with me. Do it.
I am saying Brian Robinson here. Over David Montgomery.
All right, we're split. David Montgomery or AJ Dillon?
David Montgomery. Come on. How many times has Ahan been on the show? And said,
you are biased. AJ Dillon is the answer.
What?
I gotta agree with AJ Dillon too.
It's I gotta go AJ.
Are we talking Dynasty?
Yeah, we're talking Dynasty. And wait, I got one more for you. David Montgomery or Roschon Johnson?
Oh God. I had this decision early. Actually, you know what? David Montgomery.
That's just being obtuse. I'm throwing that as a fake answer.
I had the decision. I literally was on the clock in a Dynasty startup, and I had the choice. Do I want David Montgomery or Roschon Johnson? And I took David Montgomery over Roschon Johnson. Don't worry, though.
He's nearly 4 years older than Roschon Johnson. What?
He's 25. What are you talking about?
He's 25.9.
25, still 25. And with a 3-year contract from the number 4 offense in the NFL last year, who's going to be in the red zone a lot. So he's going to get a lot of those opportunities down there. He's he's a better player than Jamal Williams.
Out of those 3 guys, I think AJ Dillon is the closest to Montgomery in value, but maybe I'm just sleeping on David Montgomery, but I got Brian Robinson and Roschon Johnson over him too.
Oh, wait. It's just about the contract, right? Because all contracts get played out in full. You realize that Nyheim Hines has the same valued contract as David Montgomery, right? They're very similar in terms of full value. The Bills were willing to give the same amount of money to Nyheim Hines to sit the bench as the Detroit Lions gave to David Montgomery. I don't know if anything's guaranteed. They can still save $4 million cap space by cutting him after this season. If David Montgomery gets cut at the end of the season, which he will, clip this, then all you'll have left to say is that I was right.
And all I have to say to you is, what does David Montgomery have to do to prove to you that he's a good running back? Because 4 years of evidence is not good enough for you, apparently.
Get re-signed by his team. Be an efficient runner. Anything really. All right.
I don't even know.
Sorry to
I don't
hijack
even know.
your segment. It's your turn to talk buy or sell. It's your turn to talk buy or sell.
Oh, it's what did I even have to say about buy or sell? I don't. Breece Hall, buy Breece Hall. Everybody knows that, right? Buy David Montgomery. I guess not everybody knows that. Because I agree with Jonathan. Jacoby Myers. How about that? In an offense where Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be able to throw the ball 10 yards down the field or more, hardly ever. Why not get the guy who's going to be open in that space of the field, who's just been flirting with wide receiver 2 numbers forever, and he's like going in the double-digit rounds of Dynasty Startups right now. Like his sleeper ADP is ridiculous. So go out and get Jacoby Myers, and I'll give you a real deep cut. And just I was gonna be nice. Mr. Babich, but then you went all crazy on David Montgomery. So I'm taking Mike Gesicki from you. Like, why would you not have Mike Gesicki in just every league at this point? I mean, why not? Ride or die, baby. We're going down with the ship with Mike Gesicki. Give Mike Gesicki, baby, in that New England offense. Who else are they gonna throw the ball to in the red zone?
I do these things because I care. It's the Patriots and it's Mike Gesicki. These are my 2 worlds. They have collided. I have to stay as emotionally unattached to this situation as I possibly can, because if I sing his praises from the rooftops all offseason, I will guarantee you nothing will happen. It'll be a big fat. So the fantasy plumber, he got enough crap from the Podfather a couple of streams ago, so I don't need to. My buys.
I don't know who he's talking about. It's fair. Like, I don't know if he's talking about me or you. To be
I
fair.
don't care.
Yeah.
I think Pittman's weight is too cheap still. He's below Debo and Quentin Johnston on keep trade cut. They're right next to each other, but still in a reality where I can trade Debo or the draft spot where I'm staring down the barrel of Quentin Johnston or Zay Flowers eventually. Okay. Why do we talk so much about these players? We're dedicating so much airtime to David Montgomery.
It's a Bears show, baby. It's a Bears show. And he doesn't even play on the Bears anymore.
If I am in a world where I could give up Debo or a draft spot where I'm staring down the barrel of Quentin Johnston or Zay Flowers to get Michael Pittman plus, I'm pulling the trigger on that all day. And from a running back standpoint, J.K. Dobbins, I think, is a value still. I'd rather take advantage of the cliff that Nick Chubb is potentially about to fall off of. If I'm a Nick Chubb owner and I can move off of him to get a little bit younger and get J.K. Dobbins, and still position myself clearly, because you're probably in a win now team unless you're completely rebuilding, but kind of keep yourself in that window and then sell. I'm selling Dameon Pierce at RB17 with 5th round draft capital in a rebuilding Houston Texans franchise with a new coaching staff around him. We've seen this story play out before. This organization has no tie to Dameon Pierce, really. I know Caserio is still there, but it's a different coaching staff, a new regime, and Dameon Pierce is going to have a backfield partner with higher draft capital there, whether it's next year or the year after. So I don't think his value goes up much from RB17, even if he does somewhat escape the draft next year. I think it's just a matter of time before he's outside the top 30, and right now is the time to capitalize on that.
Good stuff. We got so much in the chat. So 201. Ooh, that's good. I haven't really seen him fall outside of like the 111 is, I think, the farthest he's fallen for me, if I'm being honest. What do you guys have you guys seen something similar? Or 201 is about, like, have you seen him fall that far?
I've seen it late first, 110, 109.
Gotcha. Yes. Well, I don't know if it's giant or not. It's just a regular Modelo. Like, maybe if I hold it closer to the camera, it becomes bigger in the optical illusion. Mike is in the 5th round of his draft. Tight end premium. I'm guessing this is Dynasty. Should I grab Hawkinson or Najee Harris? Hawkinson or Najee Harris, guys, in a tight end premium?
I'm going Hawkinson mostly because I don't like Najee Harris, but also Hawkinson in that Vikings offense got a lot of looks, and that's not going to change, even with Addison.
I'll go Najee just for the sake of argument. They really invested in the offensive line during the drafts and in the free agency. I think he could have a good year. I think he'd be top 10 running back this year.
Yeah, I think Najee's undervalued in Dynasty right now because of I think he played through an injury all last season, and I think that made him look worse than he was. He was playing with I think it was a foot injury.
Yep.
He's playing with the Liz Franck too, if I am remembering correctly. Liz Franck.
Liz Franck.
It's a pretty
Zeth. Promo code Zeth.
It's a pretty tough injury to play with, especially as a running back. So when you get at least two more years on his rookie contract in an offense that is dedicated to giving him a significant opportunity share, then that's pretty valuable, especially where his value is at right now in the 5th round. So I'm Najee.
Oh, the Lions, they did it. I forgot about they traded Hawkinson too. They traded Hawkinson and then drafted a tight end. They did it again. I forgot about that. They did it twice. What are they doing? Okay. FFPC Dynasty Leagues. If you're going to play in a Dynasty League, you should play in the FFPC. Harry Snowman is absolutely correct. Also, don't paying PayPal, make sure you're on like League Safe. Like, don't ever sign up for a Dynasty League and then go to PayPal. Like, that's sketchy is all. Make sure it's on League Safe or with a trusted like Safe Leagues or FFPC. FFPC though is who we're with. Yep, in France. Okay, I think that is it. Promo code Zeth. For us tonight, we will give the guys some time to promote their stuff and then give us a bold prediction. Oh, wait. Hold on. Oh, forgot. He doesn't want Pierce.
Wait, whoa.
He doesn't want Pierce now.
Whoa,
All right?
let's slow down. There's a lot of bright sides to Pierce. You know, he was an effective ball carrier last year. You know, they didn't draft anybody. I think, you know, keep an open mind, you know.
All right. I can't. This warms my heart. All right. Rad Swag. He's new to Dynasty and he wants to know what he needs to do to start in my draft to start smart to get Kelsey Mahomes with my first two if I can, and then have a great duo, then trade Kelsey later on. That would be, I think, a good idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that's what you want to do in your first Dynasty. Again, Dynasty fantasy football should be fun, and this is your first draft. Go do, like, if that's what you want to do, go do it. Don't maybe try not to give up too much to go do it.
Yeah.
And maybe subscribe. If you wanted to subscribe to and you want to get all this information, you should subscribe to the Dynasty package on playerprofiler.com. I don't know if there's a promo code with that one or not, but anyway, first year Dynasty players, that's what we're all about here. So, John, go ahead, plug your stuff, bold predictions, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Fourth and Lange. I'll be doing an article soon on the best and worst fantasy football schedules of the fantasy postseason. You should be getting that here soon. And also shortly, probably more in the midsummer, I'll be doing NFC South content, the division that keeps on giving. And the bold prediction, I have a mild one and then I have a spicy one. This is for everybody that's in their rookie drafts right now. Grab Clayton Tune at the end of your draft.
Okay.
Kyler Murray is not going to be playing anytime soon. They aren't. I think he's going to get a couple starts. Now, Kyler Murray will play, but I just think you could maybe get some starts, find a desperate quarterback team, trade him for a third, and there you go. The real spicy take is this. Tyler Algier is not dead. I think I haven't quite put the numbers together on this, but we assume that Kyle Pitts is going to get all these catches and Arthur Smith doesn't care. We just automatically assume Bijan's going to get 350 touches. I think he's going to get most of the work, but I think Tyler Algier, I think he's going to have some RB2 weeks. I think he's going to have some usability. He's not going to be gone. Remember Tyler Algier.
Clip it. Let's
Who?
clip that one.
Flip it.
Who? I've already forgotten.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Aditya.
Yeah, for me, my work just yesterday, I had a Diamonds in the Rough article come out about a couple guys to target late in your rookie drafts that were taken on day 3 of the NFL draft. So check that out on playerprofiler.com and also my Twitter at ADI_FUL. And then I'll also be helping out with some of that schedule release stuff as well. So keep an eye out for that too. And then as for my bold prediction, this is where I come in with my Quentin Johnston take. I think Josh Downs is going to be a better value than Quentin Johnston in rookie drafts. And I think that that's a take that maybe reasonably, if you look into it, it looks like, you know, Josh Downs with Anthony and could grow with Anthony Richardson. But you look at how Quentin Johnston's profile looks, he's that kind of wide receiver that the Chargers have been drafting and liking. But when you look at the Chargers wide receivers that have actually had success, it's Keenan Allen and then Mike Williams every 3 weeks or something like that. So Keenan Allen, it looks like he might be headed out, but I don't like Quentin Johnston's profile as much. Josh Downs is faster, and he goes to an Indianapolis Colts offense where they're going to be rolling with Anthony Richardson going forward. Yep, Downs over Quentin Johnston.
The fantasy plumber agrees with Aditya, Matt,
Yes.
and he agrees with me. He just doesn't agree with you.
Cool.
There you go.
Nice.
All right, what you got to plug? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so I just had an article drop not too long ago that covered the 5 biggest reaches in the NFL draft. People make me laugh on Twitter, man. I had someone say they called it clickbait because the Jake Moody, they were drafting a kicker in the 3rd round. So that's the funny part about it. And then the funnier part about it was that the reasoning was because he was automatic in college and teams struggle to find good kickers. So boom. Jake Moody to the 49ers was a good pick. Drafting a kicker in the 3rd round, just ignoring all positional value and drafting a kicker with your 2nd pick in the draft. That was a good idea. Just kidding. No, it wasn't.
Cody Carpentier, who knows a thing or two about drafts, like NFL, he's kind of the guru around here. Basically, if you draft a punter or a kicker at all in the draft, like let alone on day 2 of the NFL draft, that's a major ding. And I looked at his San Francisco grade, which you should go check out in the article section. It's not good. It's not good. So anyway,
you could call in 6 former, or current NFL kickers who are trying out for a job. You can invite 6 of them with Jake Moody any given day. You'd pick one of the 7 to be your kicker going forward. I mean, it's volatile. It's a tough position. And there's just no reason to ever spend day 2. I mean, if you didn't learn from Roberto Aguayo, I don't know. The Kyle Shanahan hubris extends to kickers. That's what we learned from this. So you can go read that on the article section. You can find my tweets at Babich_Matt10, and you'll be able to find some of my work in the draft kit, which will be coming somewhat soon. So stay tuned for that. For my bold prediction, if I'm being honest, I did not really slam today. I didn't really think of one. So I'm thinking of one on the spot. I was doing a little bit of digging. See Stephon Diggs in Dynasty rankings. He is wide receiver 15 right now. He's 29. He's getting up there. It makes sense. He's had a couple of down years while still being a top 10 receiver. Just feels like he's left us wanting more in 2 straight seasons. And I think if the Bills have shown us anything this offseason, it's that they are continuing to dedicate this passing offense running through Stephon Diggs. And I see it all over the place. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1, added target competition. Had a pass-heavy offense last year. Jahmyr Chase, wide receiver 1. Yeah, sure. Could be. Except Stephon Diggs will be the wide receiver 1 in PPR leagues in 2023.
Boom. It's never who you expect.
It's never
last
who you
year.
expect.
Last year, everyone was saying, "Oh, you got to draft Jonathan Taylor," but I was like, "No." I was the only one. I think I was the first one on YouTube. I'm not joking. I did a draft in early June, and I took Jefferson number 1 overall, and everybody. I mean, so many dislikes on that video. There was only 50 views on the video, but most people disliked it because they thought, this guy's nuts. This guy's crazy. This guy's a little out there. But who turned out to be right? I think that's perfect. I think that's a reasonable take. Just like the fact that David Montgomery is going to outscore Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's not, frankly, going to be close.
We need to have some sort of stake on
because
this. You can't just keep saying these things without having
let's write it down.
What
do you want to bet? What do you want to bet?
Are we going to get demonetized for gambling live on stream?
Let's see.
Is that actually a good question?
I'll pay your. Oh, this is good. How about this? I will pay your entry fee to the Writers Roundtable Dynasty League that we are going to start soon. So be on the lookout for that. See what I'm doing? See what I'm doing here? See what I'm doing? I'm doing a plug and a bet, like a little wager at the same time for audience engagement. See? I'm taking notes from Cody. So anyway, so if David Montgomery scores less fantasy points than Jahmyr Gibbs in 2023, I will purchase your entry fee for 2024.
I'm going to modify that because I am not getting trapped into total fantasy points. We will do fantasy points per game. We will do fantasy points per game.
What?
Yes. What? We will do fantasy points per game, and both backs have to play at least 8 games.
So you are saying that you agree with me that David Montgomery should be, because he's got a 3-year deal with Detroit and the role's going to be there.
I'm talking about injury.
Oh, so you're worried that
If
David Montgomery could get injured?
That's what I'm saying. Either way.
But Jahmyr Gibbs is more likely to get injured.
Play 10 games versus 16, and we're looking at obviously the one with 16 is going to win the bet. Like what did that prove?
You got to play at least like 10 games.
That's fine.
Okay,
we can do whatever game qualifier you want.
All right, we can talk about this off the air, but the bet is in negotiations. So that's my bold prediction. You can find me on Twitter at Seth_Diewold. Go follow me there for St. Louis Cardinal takes and David Montgomery rants and Justin Fields just zany propaganda. And Bears. I love my Bears. So we have to get off the air. So sorry to the GOAT District that's on. Go check out the GOAT District. They're on the TV right now. We went over. So I can't thank you guys enough for being on the show. I can't thank Aditya and Jonathan enough for joining us this evening. Click the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Join us next week, every week, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We might have a special guest next week, so stay tuned for that. His name might rhyme with Schmelly. And he might have a game name that is like the old movie except Schmodfather. All right, so he may or may not be on the program next week, but you have to tune in to find out. So until next time, nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers, and we will see you next time. If I can find the
Happy Teacher
damn
Appreciation
button,
Week, Steph.
Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. We're almost to summertime, everybody.
Shout out Seth.
The teachers on high. Go have fun. We will see you next time. Make your family be nice to you. I don't know what I'm saying at this point. I'm just going to get off the air. Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important.
That's the wrong button. See, I do this every time. Look, there's so many buttons in here, and I'm going to find the right one. Did Batty Kiwoom take it off? No, he didn't. It's right here. Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey, you like that video? Be sure to subscribe and activate those alerts so you get notified as soon as new videos drop. And be sure to check out playerprofiler.com. We have all the tools for you to dominate every type of fantasy league. We have a draft kit, Dynasty Deluxe, data analysis, DFS Dominator, and don't forget the player rankings to rule them all.